hello, and it is that time of the week again already, and it is time for the National League Natter, match day 13. Unlucky for some, hopefully it's not unlucky for the National League. Preview, and I am joined as always for the previews with my wonderful co-host Lauren. So Lauren, how are you this week? How are you feeling?
Good,
And are you
tired.
excited to be previewing again?
I'm always excited to preview, always excited to be here and partake in such a fabulous podcast, which all of our listeners say that we're a fabulous podcast. But yeah, all excited to be here again. New location for 1 week and 1 week only. Again, we should have a stable location by next week, but maybe you're enjoying seeing, for the ones that can see and watch us on YouTube rather than listening to us in an audio form. I hope you enjoy seeing the lots of wonderful places that I get to record in.
I did say to her off camera before we started recording, I said, your house has got very nice decor. I said, anyone that has a radiator on the back of the wall, that's when you know it's quite a nice house, you know? But yeah, like she says, she's going back to Cambridge on Saturday, so you should have a more stable recording space from there, shouldn't you, really? But before we begin to preview, I kind of want to start on a little bit of a rant and a little bit not too much of a rant, but I've got a few things to say. Now, obviously, Tuesday wasn't a National League game week, but it was the inaugural week of the National League Cup, Lauren. Now, if nobody knows what this is, you must be living under a rock, because this has took up controversy over the last couple of weeks, to say the least. It is basically a National League's answer to the Papa John's Trophy, pretty much. It is the top 16 top 16 teams in the Premier League 2 against the top 16 teams in the National League. And I, for one, am a big, like, what's the word, against this competition for a multitude of reasons. So I think the rulings are quite silly, like the fact that the biggest rule in this competition is you have to play at least 4 of your previous match day squad in the game to start off with. So then, like, we have Tuesday night game weeks. Sometimes we sometimes have late Saturday games, early Saturday games, depending on TV. There's enough fixtures there for players to, get fatigued and stuff. And without trying to sound like Pep Guardiola or Rodri here, I think football at National League level is more important to look after players and ensure players don't pick up injuries at this sort of level when they're earning the money that they're probably earning now. And I just think it's really silly how this competition to me should be for the players that kind of are on your peripherals of your squads. And I know, speaking as an Oldham fan, you're probably listening to this and thinking it's okay when you're a bigger team with a bigger squad, and granted that's a fair point, but also, like, we have that squad for that reason. So to have to play 4 of your first teamers is always going to run the risk of injuries. And I've seen multiple teams this week, including Oldham, unfortunately, lose a couple or at least one first teamer due to this competition. And if we're being honest as well, Lauren, the fans don't want it either, do they? I think that's been reflected in the attendances of this competition so far. I've seen a stat actually that's quite staggering before I came on the podcast. The average attendance, or the combined attendance of all 8 games in the first week of the National League Cup, was 2,347. Now that's divided by 8. That is ridiculous. I think there was 347 at Boundary Park on Tuesday night. Like, nobody wants this. Yes, the players might like playing in it, but I'm not even sure they do. The managers don't want it. It's just a money-making scheme. And yes, you might get a share of £1 million if you win it, but also, like, it just doesn't make any sense to me, Lauren. But that's enough of my rant. I don't know whether you have any sort of thoughts and opinions on the formation of it and how you're feeling about it, really.
I mean, it doesn't. I'm not. If people don't know, I'm not a fan of a specific team in the National League. I love the league as a general, but I don't have any sort of ties with the team. So for me, it's less annoying. But I get that, like, we see even in other leagues, like, people don't care about leagues like and about cups like this, right? They just don't. You say the Papa Johns, nobody goes to them. They're just, it was never going to be a popular cup. And I get, especially if you get players picking up injuries in these games that just seem unnecessary, I get why people don't like this cup. I mean, for me, more football is more football, and that's fun. But there's no one going to these games. Like, just over 1,000 between 8 games is ridiculous.
The thing is, though, without me saying something that could potentially get us in trouble with the league, the one thing I will say is I think the league have underestimated the appetite of the fans for it, because, like, National League TV was showing every game for free on the website for free. That's when they know they're not going to, it's not going the way they want to do, when every game's available to watch free from the comfort of your own home as well. And obviously we've had some awful weather in the country this week as well, so nobody's going to want to turn up on a freezing Tuesday night, are they? But just to give you a quick rundown of the scores, if anyone were interested, from the inaugural week, we had, so on Tuesday we had Gateshead versus Middlesbrough under-21s, and Gateshead won this game 1-0. The first Gateshead game without Rob Elliot, which we will touch upon later on in the podcast. I think that's been a big shock this week and a big blow for Gateshead personally. But like I said, we'll touch upon that later. You had a barnstormer of a game between Boston and Leeds' under-21s, and Leeds came out on top 4-3. You had another absolute cracker of a game for the neutrals anyway. Not that Dagenham fans would be that interested, I don't think, but it ended 5-5 with Tottenham's under-21s, and Tottenham won 6-5 in a penalty shootout for the extra point. You had Maidenhead winning 2-0 at home to Fulham's under-21s. Ebbsfleet, so you had Ebbsfleet and West Brom drawing 2-2 after 90 minutes, and winning 3-2. Ebbsfleet won 3-2 on the penalty shootout. You had Halifax losing at home to Newcastle United's under-21s 2-1 after being reduced to 10 men for the second game in a row. Is the potential discipline issues there? Who knows? You had Oldham beating Stoke under-21s 2-1 at home, and we also had a man sent off. You had what else did we have? We've got, and then the final game was Woking versus Brighton, which ended 2-2 in 90 minutes, and Brighton's under-21s won 3-2 in the penalty shootout. So obviously a lot of goals in this game, in this competition, you could argue from a neutral point of view, but also you have to bear in mind that it is like 16, 17, 18-year-old kids playing up against senior teams. So that's always tends to going to happen. But that's kind of the recap of that competition. I don't know whether we're going to do that for every Tuesday game week that this competition is onwards, because, like I said, I'm not really the biggest advocate of it, but because it was the first one, it felt like we needed to do it. But before we look ahead to this week's fixtures, Lauren, just finishing off the review, and considering you only do one podcast a week with us, do you want to take us through your game of the week from last week? If we're just refreshing people's memories, Lauren had the Gateshead versus Southend game to cover and do a little match report on, which she has provided you with for this week. So, Loz, do you want to take it away?
I will take it away, yes. So my game this week was Gateshead and Solihull, or not Solihull, Southend. I was going to say, I was like, that doesn't sound right. Here we are. Southend versus Gateshead, which ended in a 3-1 win to Gateshead. We had spoken previously about how Gateshead really needed to, put their foot down and get a win in this week. And indeed they did. So I'm very happy for them for that. The goals in the game, we had Butterfield scoring in the 12th minute. And then before half time, we get Scott Morris for Southend equalising at 32 minutes. So we go in at half time, it's 1-1, anyone's game. It did look like Gateshead were the stronger of the two sides, especially by the end. We had 2 more goals in the second half. We had a penalty conceded by the goalkeeper. Now, I've had a look at this. And there was some umming and ahhing about whether it's a penalty or not. Some people say that, it was soft. It's obviously it's basically 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper. He does have some defenders with him, but they're chasing him. And the keeper ends up just taking his legs out, really. So Aseni gets taken down, and then Hannon takes the penalty, dispatches it, and then finally Radcliffe gets a header, and that's the final score. So that's 3-1 to Gateshead in the end. The scores were at 12 minutes, 32, 53, and 70. The main thing of my run through is I usually do a ref review. Now, other than this penalty, there weren't that many big decisions that the ref had to make. And I get it, online there's a lot of discourse about whether it's a penalty or not. I am going to say that the refs made the right decision there and that it was a penalty. I think it was a worked for penalty. I think that the player does well to get it. But I think at the end of the day, the keeper does get his legs, and it is a penalty.
Obviously, I've seen it as well, and I think obviously 1-on-1 when a keeper dives at the attacker's legs, they're always going to go over, and it's always probably going to be given. But I think if you look at the replay slowed down, the Gateshead player actually puts his leg in front of the goalkeeper, as in like he's the one initiating the contact. So obviously that's very smart forward play from Gateshead. But like I said to you off, if that went against Oldham and wasn't given, I'd be absolutely gobsmacked and celebrating the fact that we just robbed someone of a clear penalty that you would expect to be given 9 times out of 10. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, like I say, I think it was a worked for penalty. I think that the player sort of works for it and earns it. But I do think that it was the correct decision in the end. And so I'm going to give the ref. I'm not going to give the ref a card, and that might be a bit controversial. But I usually give the ref a yellow or a red if he's done a decent job or not. I'm going to not give him a card. I don't think he made any decisions that were that bad to warrant a card. So I think the ref gets off scot-free there, really. But yeah, it was a good game. I listened to it. It was a pretty decent game, but Southend just didn't look like they were going to win at any point, I'll be honest. Gateshead seemed pretty solid.
We're now at the point, obviously, a quarter of the season is gone already, which is quite scary. But we're at the point where Southend are slowly beginning to flatter to deceive, really, if we're being honest. Like, we thought in the previews before the season, and even in the early season struggles, we thought, with the off the field ownership issues getting resolved and the embargo getting lifted, we thought they were going to be one of the heavy hitters this year, surprised quite a lot of people. And for whatever reason, it's not really happened for them. Obviously, there's a lot of football to be played, but the fact that your right back is your top goal scorer in your team with 8 goals already this season is like he seems like the Trent Alexander-Arnold of the National League to me. But for as impressive as that seems, that also rings alarm bells that what your striker's doing. You know, the fact that your defender is your biggest contributor to your goals this season is a big worry to myself there. So I think there's a lot to ponder over for Kevin Mayer and Southend United. But like I said, big result for Gateshead and Rob Elliott's last game for the Heed. Now, I just wanted to touch upon this because this one surprised me. I mean, it surprised me and it didn't. So for those that have not seen the news this week, Rob Elliot decided to depart Gateshead to take an opportunity up at Crawley in League One, which obviously you can't begrudge a manager for taking 2 steps up. I get that completely, completely. But the one thing I will say is, regardless of how well Crawley did last year, with the ownership structure and the owners back in the fold now, they're always going to be that bit of a basket case club, if I'm being honest. And it surprises me that somebody has took that risk knowing like their ownership history and whatever else. But like I said, Rob Elliott deserves the sort of chance at EFL football, and I hope he goes and does it well and carry on to play his attractive brand of football. But I think it's just interesting because we've seen a right sort of managerial merry-go-round with the sort of 2 clubs recently, haven't we? We've seen, you know, so you had obviously Williamson leave Gateshead to go to MK Dons, and then obviously he didn't last very long at MK Dons, and now Williamson is at Carlisle, and Gateshead have just appointed Scott Lindsay, who was the ex-Crawley manager. Sorry, not Gateshead. MK Dons have just appointed Scott Lindsay, who was the ex-Crawley manager, opening up the door for Rob Elliott to leave to Crawley. So it's like all the sort of teams have been webbed together really, and had a bit of a roundabout going on with them all really. But I think it's a really interesting move in terms of, you know, some names I've seen for the Gateshead frame, Lauren. Obviously this is only bookies talk, so don't take this for gospel. We don't know anything. We don't get that. Unfortunately, we don't get the private exclusives here on the National League unless an actual manager comes on to speak to us. But I've seen the likes of Kevin Phillips, Pete Wild, them sorts of names get announced. But I just wondered what your sort of thoughts were on this departure and obviously this appointment, and how you think it might either positively or more realistically, will it maybe negatively affect Gateshead for the rest of the season, depending on who they get in as an appointment?
Yeah, I mean, look, if an opportunity like that comes knocking at your door, you've got to take it, right? Like, at the end of the day, no matter what the team you're going into is like, 2 steps up, you've kind of got to take it because you don't know if that's the only time you're going to get the chance. However, like, Gateshead are in 5th. Like, it's a good position to be in at this point, and I think that losing a manager that you've spent a quarter of the season with, right? Like, that is going to have a big impact, I think, on the team, especially because they've just kind of, you know, they turned around from 2 losses. They've got 2 wins. They're getting themselves back in good form. And I would hope that they can get someone in that can continue that work that Rob Elliott had been doing. But I could see that this change of management is gonna shake things up a bit.
Because I think,
yeah.
I think from my perspective, what's interesting is they went from Mike Williamson to then appointing his assistant in Rob Elliott. So they had that sort of continuation of the play style because, you know, he was helping him mastermind that play style while he was there. So it was like the logical step for his assistant to take in. A little bit like, you know, somebody might say that like when Arteta left City to go to Arsenal, you knew Arsenal were going to do okay because he had such a good grounding under Guardiola. It's a little bit sort of similar sort of here, but I think this is the first appointment where that play style doesn't have any bearing because, you know, they broke away from that now. They don't have a number 3 that they can just put in. You know what I mean? So I think that they have to get this appointment right. And for Gateshead as well, I think it's a really sort of important appointment, because I don't ever see them as a club that usually makes rash decisions. So I imagine that the manager that they put in now, they will give a fair crack of the whip and a fair crack of time. But obviously that's what we want from managers and stuff. But also on the flip side of that is, surely if you're coming in with the idea that you're going to give them, you know, at least a year or 6 months or whatever it'll be, you know, you have to get it right, because if they start poorly under a new manager, and you know, then the fans could turn quickly, and you might have to look at getting a new manager for the new manager before long. So I think they have to get it right, and I think there's a real importance on that. So it's definitely one to keep an eye over for sure.
100%.
But before we head into the break, shall I just give a quick rundown top to bottom of this weekend's fixtures, Lauren, and we can go across with our thoughts and feelings on the big ones from this weekend?
Yes, let's do it.
Let's do it. So this weekend, obviously, the first game week of October, brand new month, spooky season. Let's hope there's not any spooky goings on the football pitch, eh? But we have Barnet versus Boston. You've got Braintree versus Altrincham. You've got Eastleigh versus Forest Green. That's a big one, even though Eastleigh have like kind of been a bit patchy recently, I guess. Ebbsfleet versus Rochdale. Fylde versus Aldershot. Currently permanent managerless Gateshead at home to Wealdstone, Halifax at home to Tamworth, Hartlepool United at home to Sutton, and then you've got the biggest club in the National League, Oldham Athletic, at home to Solihull Moors. No, I'm joking. And then we have, what else do we have? We have Southend versus Maidenhead United, Yeovil versus Dagenham and Redbridge, and then in the half 5 it is Woking versus York. So straight away to me, like I said, just said briefly there, I think you've got a couple that you can keep an eye over. I think you have the big one will be Gateshead, you know, in case I don't think they'll have a manager in by the time Saturday comes around.
Surely
Like
not.
anything could happen in football, but I can't see it really. So that means that the interim will step in and do a job. So it'll be worth keeping an eye on their result for sure. I think you've got a very, very struggling Hartlepool United side. Have a very, very tough home fixture this weekend against always improving Sutton United side. You have a very inconsistent and underwhelming Southend United playing a very, very tricky home tie against a team battling for their lives at the minute in Maidenhead. You've got Barnet versus Boston, who obviously Boston are slowly beginning to find the feet a little bit, making things difficult for teams. But I do expect Barnet to deal with that pretty comfortably. And then obviously the two that probably stick out to me the most are Eastleigh, Forest Green, just because, you know, Forest Green, we expect them to be up there. Eastleigh had such a good start, but I've kind of come off the boil a little bit in the last couple of weeks. But they still sit in 7th with a 2-point gap from Sutton in 8th. You have, and then the other one that sticks to me is Ebbsfleet at home to Rochdale. And you might be thinking, why does that one stick to you? Because Rochdale are 4th and Ebbsfleet are bottom. But I think that's why it sticks to me in itself, because, you know, you have complete contrasting seasons there. You have Ebbsfleet, who were almost at desperation point to not be cut away, and Rochdale, who are sort of, I would say, over excelling at the minute, if I'm being honest. And that's not even, before people come at me, that's not even me trying to have a dig. Like, I think if you would have said to Rochdale fans at the beginning of the season you'd be sat 4th in the league, I think they would have snapped your hand off for it personally. But also, Rochdale suffered quite a bad result at Ebbsfleet away last year. So I think, is it a bogey ground? Is it a bit of an unwanted ground for them? Who knows? Obviously, we will see. But I think they're the kind of key ones to me. What are you thinking about this fixture list, Lauren? What are you browsing over. What are your thoughts?
I do like the look of Eastleigh Forest Green. Obviously teams right up in the top, both of them in the playoff areas at the moment. So that's always good. It's always good to be, Eastleigh will be trying to cement themselves in there, try and extend that gap over Sutton. Forest Green, obviously, coming down this season, we want to be hopping straight back up. So I think that'll be quite a feisty one. As I look further down, you've got... Yeah, I mean, I do think that the Gateshead game will be interesting, especially seeing the interim manager. I agree. I think it's very unlikely that they're going to get someone in by Saturday, because that requires them to be in like now, basically. I get what you mean about the Halifax game maybe being interesting. Halifax, they're not doing awfully. But we've said before that we think Tamworth have worked out they could beat any team in this league, and any team is beatable in this league. And I think that they are. I mean, obviously they lost at last time, but they won the 3 before that, and I think that they have worked out.
Was it not 4 before that? I think.
Well, according to my thing, they've lost. They won 3 before that, but maybe I'm wrong.
Let me have a look.
But obviously Halifax have been having a bit of a dip as well, and I think Tamworth could get something from it.
Yeah, so it was 3. My apologies.
Yeah, I think that there's lots of very exciting ties in here, to be honest, as always.
And then obviously Barnet are going for the quite impressive record of Barnet haven't drawn a game in the division yet, which is quite nuts if you think about it. And then you've still got the 2 teams in York and Oldham that have only lost 1 game all season. So I think there's a few different storylines popping up, and yeah, it's definitely an exciting season so far. With that being said, then let's get to the important stuff, and let me pick you a Lauren's tie of the week for next week or this week, and we will do a joint tie of the week as well. So let me see what we've got for you then. You know what? Just because I don't think you've, unless you might have a better memory than me, but because we are the hosts and we can do what we want, please don't complain. It's only a podcast, but I think you can take a trip and a look at Oldham in a bit more depth for the first time this season, and I'll give you our home tie against Solihull, I think.
Okay.
I've probably just signed my club's death wish, because whenever I put this woman on Oldham games, we always end up losing the game from last season. That's what I remember, and we've currently only lost one. We've lost 1 game all season. So if you do make us lose, Lauren, you're definitely getting blocked, and I'm getting a new host. I'm just putting out there.
Is that what's happening? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then in terms of the tie of the week that we think is probably the biggest tie between us, I think potentially there are. I think there's 2 here for me. I think the 5:30 with York, I think that's going to be a test for York, even though they've actually started and they're flying. I think Woking have proven this season so far that even though they're having a tough time right now, they can turn it on and pick up the wins when they want to, and I think that'll be an interesting one. But I think, like you say, I don't think in terms of a tie of the round, if that's what we're calling it, you can't look past Eastleigh Forest Green, can you? So I think that should be our joint tie of the week. Would you agree?
Yeah, Eastleigh twice in a row. It was Eastleigh's game last week that we had as tie of the week.
Yeah, crazy. So that brings us bang on 30 minutes. So we're going to disappear for just a few seconds, minutes, whatever it might be, to let you listen to our wonderful sponsors who without we wouldn't be able to make and produce this podcast. And we will be back with you very, very shortly. So that is our ad break done, and like I said on Monday, that is a brand new shiny rebranded deck ad break graphic that we hope you enjoy. And to go with that, from Monday, I believe, when me and Chris do the review show, I think we're actually getting treated to a brand new shiny intro video. And me and Lauren have seen the intro video. And by the way, if you think our intro video is good now, wait till you see what we've got in store for you on the new one. I think it's so clean. I really like it. Me, do you, Lauren?
I do. I think it's awesome. I think it looks really, really good.
So you've got that to look forward to on Monday. But anyway, enough of the talk. Halfway in, are we ready? Are we ready for people's favourites? Now the battle is getting more and more intense week on week. I've already told Lauren, and she's sweating, but I've already locked her design in. I know what she's getting. I also know who I think she's gonna get it off. I've been doing some work. I've been doing some pricing up.
Oh goodness!
So yeah, I'm sorted really, and all I'm gonna say is if I do win this could either elevate our friendship or completely ruin our friendship. That's all I'm gonna say.
So
and the biggest clue I'll give you, without giving anything away, it's actually got nothing at all to do with football.
Okay. I'm so scared. I'm actually terrified.
So I can, for those that can't see Lauren's face, by the way, I can see them two hints have done exactly what I wanted them to do, and the little cogs are working overtime in her head to think about what I've just said. So while she does that, I'll let you, Lauren, take us for a recap of last week's predictions and scores and get us to where we are this week before we look ahead to this week's.
Okay, so I may have come into last week's predictions a little bit confident. You know, it was my first one back after a 6-week hiatus because I've been away. I'm back now. I'm slowly getting less rusty at this thing. And, you know, I was like, oh, it's the first time I'm doing my own predictions now. Maybe we'll, you know, come out, fly in, get a banger out there, do an awesome job. That's not quite how it went, I'll be honest. But to be fair, we both did an absolutely horrendous job, Aaron, this week.
I don't know why we say this like it's like some sort of surprise. Like we average low scores. That's just what we do. That is our niche.
Yeah, but there's averaging low scores and then literally not even getting the equivalent of 2 games right. Like there's bad scores and then there's really bad scores.
Listen, I'm sure last week you said I got like a third. What did you say? Like a third, a half of the scores. So last week I did all right, but this week it was a tough game week to predict.
Yeah, this week is horrendous. So last week the predictions went as follows. Let me get the actual game week up. Here we are.
I'll do it. I'll read them to you, and you can just go along.
Ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
1 second. So the first one I believe we would have had done is was it? Well, I'm just reading it from BBC Sports, so this isn't in any particular order. But the first one on here was Barnet versus Fylde.
Yes, so I predicted a 2-1 win for Barnet. You predicted a 3-1 win for Barnet. Given the final score was 2-0, you have a 2-goal difference, so you get 2 points and I get 1 point.
Nice.
In the next game?
So the next one is Boston versus Maidenhead.
Okay, so I predicted a 0-0 draw. You predicted a 1-1 draw. Maidenhead won that game 2-1. So neither of us get any points there. So you're currently in the lead on 2 points to 1 point.
And then we had Dagenham and Redbridge versus Solihull Moors.
Yep, I predicted a 2-0 Daggers win, and you predicted a 2-1 Moors win. The final score was a 1-1 draw, so no points there for either of us. You can see where this is going to go. So it's 2 points to you and 1 point to me.
What about Forest Green versus Hartlepool?
We both predicted a 3-1 win here for Forest Green Rovers. As Forest Green won 1-0, we both get 2 points. I actually can't remember whether I gave us 2 or 1 here. Either way, it's the same point. So we're going to say that I'm on 2, you're on 3. I'm going to give us 1 point each.
So we're back on the board. We're back on the board.
Yeah.
Halifax versus Wealdstone?
I predicted a 1-0 win to Halifax. You predicted a 1-0 win to Halifax. It was a draw 2-2, so no points there. I'm still on 2, you're still on 3.
Rochdale versus Braintree?
I predicted a 2-1 Rochdale win, and you predicted a 3-0 Rochdale win. It was a 1-0 Rochdale win, so I get 2 points there because I only have a goal difference of 1. And you get 1 point there, so we're both drawing on 4 points.
Ooh. Southend versus Gateshead.
Now, this one does slightly change from the graphic if you look at our one on Twitter from last week. I actually predicted a 2-0 Gateshead win, and I'm not just saying this because Gateshead won.
No.
There is proof in our past messages.
Yeah.
And listen back to our last podcast if you didn't already, and you will hear
also, even though I am itching to build a lead, I am also a very, very fair man, and I messaged her on WhatsApp, and I was like, I think the scores have been the wrong way around. You should have the points here. So
yes. So Gateshead, I went for a 2-0 win. You went for a 1-1 draw to Southend. Gateshead won.
I don't think a team can benefit off a 1-1 draw. You went for a 1-1 draw to Southend.
Look, but look, Southend did get a draw, so
She's
it's not that bad. Right. Anyway, I get 2 points there and you get none. So I'm on 6, you're on 4. Dun dun dun. Okay. Next game.
Next up, we have Tamworth versus Altrincham.
And I went for a 1-0 win to Tamworth, and you went for a 2-1 win to Tamworth. Altrincham won, so no points there.
Woking versus Sutton.
Now, I went for a 2-1 win to Woking. You went for a 2-1 win to Sutton. It was a 2-1 win to Sutton, so you get 3 points there.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So it's now 6-7. So you've got 7 points, I've got 6 points.
It's just what I do because, I just pull it out of the fire when I need to.
Yeah.
And then we have Yeovil versus Aldershot.
I went for a 2-0 win to Yeovil. You went for a 2-0 win to the Shots. There was a draw. It was a 1-1 draw. So no points there.
York City versus Eastleigh.
I went for a 3-1 win to York. You went for a 2-1 win to Eastleigh. It was a draw. No points there.
And then finally, Ebbsfleet United versus Oldham Athletic in the half-5 on TV.
I went for a 2-0 win to Oldham. You went for a 3-1 win to Oldham. So we both had a 2-goal difference.
1 goal difference.
And Oldham won. So do you want an extra point because you said that Oldham would concede a goal?
Oof,
do you want me to be nice?
Generous. I mean, listen. I'll take the extra point, but I'm also. I mean, you'll reveal the final scores and the overall scores. But you know what? I'm going to take the point. I'll take the extra point. I'm not going to be overconfident and overconfident.
Right. So I'll give myself 1, and you get 2 here. I must have forgotten this one when I was counting up the scores. So we're a little bit better, actually. You got the equivalent of getting 3 games correct.
There we go.
Crazy. So I ended up with 7 points. this game week, which is ridiculously bad. And you ended up with 9 points this game week. So, if I add those to our final scores, I'm on 69 points, and you will be on 86 points. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. It's a 17-point lead.
17-point lead. Now, I don't want to count my chickens too early. We're still on the other side of Christmas, but I feel like it is getting to the point where maybe if I even let you in by 2 or 3 points at this point, maybe I should just come and get a tattoo with you at the same time.
Maybe just get twinning ones.
Just get 21s, yeah. Although when you figure out what the design is, I don't think you want to get 21s.
Oh no! Oh no!
The thing is, yeah, I've got that over her. I've got that over her for the rest of the season, and like I'm just gonna torture you. I'm gonna play with your mind.
Mm-mm.
To be fair, right, I will give you a bit of an exclusive. I will. When I was coming up with this tattoo idea, the only person in this entire company I have shown or given any indication to is Ryan. And the reason I did that is because I felt like it might have been a little bit too far. So I messaged Ryan. I was like, "This is what I'm planning for Lauren's tattoo," and he was like, he just replied back saying, "Wow, you are cruel. Somebody's gonna have a bad day." That's all the message said. So yeah.
Guys, can we like petition Aaron to, be nice to me, please?
So with that little nugget of information, shall we get to this week's prediction?
Please.
So I will go first this week.
Okay.
And let me just get the fixture list back up. So top to bottom, I'm gonna say a 3-1 Barnet win.
3-1.
I am gonna say the thing is, I don't actually think Braintree looked that bad against Rochdale last weekend, if I'm being completely honest. And I know Altrincham have started picking up form a little bit, but I'm still not overly convinced. So I'm going to say a 1-1 draw.
1-1 draw.
I'm going to say Forest Green to beat Eastleigh 2-1 away from home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say Rochdale to beat Ebbsfleet 2-0 away from home.
2-0.
I am going to say the Shots and Fylde are going to draw 1-0.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to say the interim manager at Gateshead is going to get off to a flyer, and I think this will be 3-0 to the Heed.
3-0. Wow.
And then Halifax versus Tamworth. Oh, do I back Tamworth again? No, I'm gonna give Halifax the victory. I'm gonna give Halifax a 2-1 home win.
Mm-hmm.
Hartlepool Sutton, I can't see anything other than a comfortable Sutton win. I am gonna go 3-1 Sutton.
Got you.
Oldham Solihull, I am gonna say 2-1 to Oldham.
Backing your boys.
As always. It's been working for me, to be fair, hasn't it? So
they've not been bad this season, I'll give you that. It's highest praise they'll get.
Nice. Southend versus Maidenhead. I think Southend have been poor, but I think they'll comfortably deal with a Maidenhead side. I think it'll be 2-0 to Southend.
2-0 to Southend.
Yeovil versus Dagenham and Redbridge. I think this will be 1-0 to Daggers. And then Woking versus York. I think this will be a 2-2 draw.
2-2 draw. Perfect. Do you want me to run you from top to bottom, or should we do that once I've done mine?
We shall do that side to side, I think.
Perfect. In which case, I will run you through mine, and I'll try and be less slow than I was last time, given I got abuse from you, Aaron, for that.
Never.
Okay. Barnet, Boston. I agree. I can't see anything but a Barnet win here, unfortunately. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Barnet there. Braintree, Alty. I'm going to say that Alty are going to win. Unfortunately for Braintree, I'm going to say that they're going to win just 1-0, but I'm going to give Alty the win there. In the Eastleigh Forest Green game, I'm going to call a draw, Why not? I'm going to call a 2-2 draw in that game. Ebbsfleet, Rochdale. I'm also going to say Rochdale's going to win. I'm going to say it's going to be a 2-1 to Rochdale, that game. Aldershot, Fylde. I'm going to have to back my shot again. I still cannot believe where Fylde are in the league. Like, I can't get over that, especially with Nick Houghton. I don't know how they're there. But either way, I think that Fylde are going to get a goal in this game, but I think that the Shots are going to win. And so I'm going to say it's going to be 2-1. Gateshead, Wealdstone, I am going to say it's going to be a 1-1 draw. Why not? I am going to give Tamworth the win. Just a 1-0 win there, but I'm going to give Tamworth a win. Hartlepool, Sutton, I'm going to agree and say that Sutton are going to win. I'm going to call that a 2-0. Oldham, Solihull. Yeah, fine. I'll agree with you and give Oldham the win. I'm going to say 2-1 as well.
You know what? This season's been nice because, you are finally getting to see that this girl is a closet Oldham fan.
I'm not a closet Oldham fan. I'm just realistic.
I'm taking full responsibility for that, and I've never felt prouder, to be fair.
You keep telling yourself that, Aaron. You keep telling yourself that. Right. With the Southend Maidenhead game, I think you're going to call me a fence sitter, but I think I'm going to do another draw. I just can't see either of these teams winning this week.
To be fair, I had 3 draws this week, so I can't really come at you for that this week.
Yeah, I can't see either team winning this game. I'm going to call it a 0-0.
When people draw a game, Warren.
What?
I said that's usually what happens when 2 teams draw a game.
I know, that's why I was just, clarifying. Just clarifying. I'm going to back the Daggers as well. I'm going to say that they're going to win 2-0 against Yeovil.
Nice.
And last but not least, Woking, York. I'm going to give York the win. I backed them last week and they didn't pull through. So hopefully they'll pull through this week. Because I've been told I don't like York, but I do like York. I'm going to give them 2-1. I think York are going to win. They're going to concede a goal. Bon appetit. Look how speedy that was.
Better.
Can't tell me off for dilly-dallying this week. I didn't hear you once go, oh, she always does this. She always changes her mind.
I would like to preface, right? We only argue because we get on so well. I know that sounds weird because
we're besties, really.
You guys listening to this think, oh, them guys always argue. They must really like each other off camera. It's like pretty much like the complete opposite. And yeah, it's done out of a place of love.
It is. We love each other, really. That's what the National League does to you. It brings people together.
That's it. She's going to be at Wembley with me in May if Oldham get to the playoff final.
Am I?
I think so.
I'll skip an exam to come and watch Oldham at Wembley. I did that with Stockport the other year. So
Yeah, but that's your team, so that's understandable. If you come to Attic with me, that will be crazy.
right, let me go from top to bottom of this week's predictions. So, our first game of this game week is Barnet versus Boston. We've both gone for a Barnet win. I've gone for a 2-1 win. You've gone for a 3-1 win. In the Braintree Alti game, I've gone for a 1-0 Alti win, whilst you've gone for a 1-1 draw. Eastleigh Forest Green Rovers, I've gone for a 2-2 draw in that game, and you've gone for Forest Green to win 2-1 away from home. Ebbsfleet versus Rochdale, we've got a 2-1 win from me for Rochdale, and you've also gone for Rochdale to win, but you've gone 2-0. Fylde versus Aldershot, I have gone for Aldershot to win away 2-1, and you've gone for another 1-1 draw. Gateshead versus Wealdstone, I've gone for a 1-1 draw here, and you've gone for a 3-0 win to Gateshead, following up from their 3-1 last week. Halifax versus Tamworth, I've gone for a 1-0 win to Tamworth. I think that they can do it. You've gone for a 2-1 win to Halifax. Hartlepool versus Sutton, I've gone for a 2-0 win to Sutton, and you've gone for a 3-1 win to Sutton. Oldham versus Solihull, we've both gone for a 2-1 win to Oldham. Southend versus Maidenhead, I've gone for a 0-0 draw in that game, and you've gone for a 2-0 win to Southend. In the Yeovil, Dagenham and Redbridge game, we're both backing the Daggers here. I'm backing them for a 2-0 win, and you're backing them for a 1-0 win. And in the final tie of the round, Woking versus York, I've gone for a 2-1 win to York, and you've gone for a 2-2 draw.
Very nice.
And that's the roundup for our predictions for the next game week.
So we will get that up as soon as the episode goes live, probably tomorrow morning.
I was very excited. I remembered my notepad today, so we've got it all written out.
Very
Not
nice,
having to type it away.
Very nice indeed. So that brings us to the end of yet another preview. Like I said, match day 13, these weeks are flying. Let's hope it's not, like I say, unlucky for a number of our teams, especially Oldham, considering we're on one of the best runs right now. I hope it doesn't end on match day 13, otherwise I'm going to be superstitious for the rest of my life, Lauren. But just a few bits of housekeeping. So obviously, me and Chris will be back on, it'll get released on Monday probably, or maybe Sunday evening, depending on when we do it, for the match day 13 review. But also next week's preview will probably be a little bit longer because we have a Tuesday night game week in between, so we will probably do a little bit of a quick recap of the Tuesday nights and then start doing the previews like we always do. But don't forget to rate us wherever you listen to your podcast, whether that be on Spotify or on 5 stars on Apple Music. It really does mean a lot. Make sure you leave comments on the YouTube, leave comments on the Twitter, and get involved with the predictions as well, because obviously I am steamrolling ahead at the minute a little bit. So I think Lauren needs all of the sort of support maybe that she could do with, and I don't mind playing the pantomime villain because my end goal is fantastic. So with that being said, we have been National League Natter. This has been the Matchday 13 preview, and I will see you on the review, and Lauren will see you a week today for Matchday 14 preview.
Yes. Bye, everyone.
See you in a bit.